Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Habaita podcast. Today, I am so excited to be joined by Hannah Shtein, the CEO and founder of Hannah Shtein Coaching, who is going to really change your perspective in many different ways today and talk a lot about how Israeli CEOs use the most important technology there is, their brains, in order to push through challenges like the war that we're living in right now. And just excuse us if we do get a red alert because we are recording during this crazy war. So, Hannah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Shira. I'm so excited to be here.
Great. So, Hannah, maybe you can just give us a little bit of a high level on your coaching services. What exactly do you do in a nutshell?
Yes, absolutely. So I work with CEOs, founders, entrepreneurs, and high achievers to help them remove mental and spiritual emotional blocks to success so that they can build whatever it is that they are working on, without some of these blocks in their way and fulfill their full potential.
That's just incredible. And I think that, to be honest with you, I mean, I'll share with our listeners that I actually found you personally on Instagram because as a CEO, I am very, very into understanding that my mind and my thoughts create my beliefs, which then create my actions. And I really felt that I have or had or still work through these blocks. And I actually did a one-on-one session with you, which was so unbelievable. And after the session, I said, you have to join my podcast because even though my podcast is really focused on typically amazing technology, I feel like what you do is so important for founders specifically and entrepreneurs, right? That have this dream, have this vision, and have so many obstacles in their way, starting with everyone saying, no, this won't succeed. So many naysayers. You have to push through that. You really have to believe in your vision and you have to believe in yourself, right? You have so many obstacles with everything through funding, through cash flow issues. I mean, it's endless. Technology failing, right? That you've built and bugs. And I mean, just so many things that I thought, Hannah, I'd love for you to come on to the podcast and just talk to us and so that you can, potentially help many, many other founders and innovators here in Israel just about the power. Like I said, I believe that your mind is the biggest technology that we have. So maybe you can share just a little bit about, how you've been able to help some other Israeli founders.
Yeah, absolutely. So the main things that I work with people on, and I guess I'll start with sort of like the main blocks that I see a lot of founders run into is when it comes to decision making, like your ability to make fast decisions and decisions that are rooted in the highest vision for your business is so important. And I see so many founders get stuck in overwhelm or scarcity based thinking, or they want to expand, but they're still thinking from their previous level. So, a huge thing that I work with founders on is this ability to make fast decisions. And the thing that blocks people the most from doing this is discomfort in uncertainty, because which is so much of entrepreneurship. So when things are uncertain or you're not sure if the strategy you just implemented is working, it's very easy to revert back to the old thing you were doing that is not aligned with where you want to be going, but it feels safe. So that's a huge thing that I work with founders on, is staying grounded and certain in who they are and connected to that higher vision, and being able to continue making quick decisions, not getting stuck in analysis paralysis, not getting stuck in overthinking, not making a decision from fear that something isn't going to work out, and staying grounded in that next level, being able to access that higher vision and make decisions from that place even when things are uncertain. So there's other things as well, but that
Yeah.
is a huge one that comes to mind.
Yeah, for me, I can share personally, the challenge is these like older beliefs that you really have as your belief system. So even though, like for me, it was also realizing that I was sending myself these messages that I wasn't even aware of, which is this is not going to succeed.
Yeah.
It's so hard. It's going to take so long. The initial test that I did was not successful.
Hmm.
This team, like, and it's just these constant thoughts of like, okay, how am I going to get through this? What am I going to do? That I keep telling myself that are actually these thoughts are hurting me instead of helping me. But the first step for me was just to become aware. Okay, Shira, you're having these thoughts. And this is an old belief system. So working with you on a session of like, okay, where is that coming from? And kind of going a little bit deeper into why do I keep telling myself these messages? What
Mm-hmm.
is my financial story, specifically about
Mm-hmm.
money, right? It's like you do, everybody has this financial story that they tell themselves and this financial relationship with money and a belief system around money. And I think for me, it started off like, no, Shira, you do deserve this.
Mm-hmm.
You do deserve this success. You are, I mean, we talked a lot about like my high school and not feeling, as top of the class as
Mm-hmm.
everybody else, like starting back from first grade when I was really put into grade one in Canada, the lower reading group. And that made me feel like I know I can read. Why are they not thinking that I can read and putting me in a lower reading group? And that really affected my belief system about myself, about my confidence. So I've been telling myself these like mistaken messages over and over and over. And I
Mm-hmm.
definitely feel that if that affects me running my business, even if it's subconscious. So maybe you can share with the audience just a few tips that you would give someone. First of all, on how to like recognize, okay, these are the thoughts, and then how to kind of make that change because it's all these neurons, right, that are this neural pathway that you formed after so many years, but you can change that neural pathway. And it's crazy when you do that things then start changing in your world. So yeah, I'd love for you to just share a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you bring up a really good point that so many of these thoughts and patterns are subconscious. And most of the entrepreneurs I work with are very self-aware. It's not that they haven't done mindset work, but it's that there's these sneaky beliefs that you don't even notice because they're subconscious. They're so automatic. So the first step to releasing some of those and becoming aware of them is what I call like detaching from your automatic
Okay.
thought patterns. And there's various ways to do that. I think one of the most powerful ways is meditation. And I really honestly I wanted to like hate meditation because it's so like hyped, but really I do think it's the best way to do this. And even if it's just 5 minutes a day to start, the power of meditation is that it allows you to like separate from your thoughts and become the observer of them. So that's when you can notice some of these automatic thought patterns that are running you without you even noticing it. And you're just going into these thoughts and treating them as facts. So when you consistently meditate, you start to like see some of these thoughts and kind of like yeah, like become the observer rather than going into them. So I think that is absolutely step one because for some of them, once you become aware of them, you can actually release them right away. For some that are more complicated and very wrapped up in these stories, they need a little bit more work. So like some of the work that I do with clients is subconscious work, like hypnosis, like doing inner child work or certain guided exercises in meditation or in hypnosis. But I think in terms of what people can do alone, definitely meditation, also journaling and like intentional alone time with your thoughts so that again you can become like a witness to them rather than being run by them. And then reframing, so noticing some of these stories that you have that are unhelpful and reframing them and telling different stories to yourself that you can also believe. So taking some of these, yeah, some of these beliefs you have, finding evidence of another way to look at the situation.
Yes.
And there's various like modalities you can do that through, but yeah, I would say that's the starting.
I love that you said stories because that is something that I learned as well through doing this mindset work, which is so fascinating. And you don't even realize that you're telling yourself stories. And many times the story is not true, right? So you could be telling yourself a story that, oh, this wasn't successful. Okay, a great example for me would be, again, going back to high school. Clearly, I'm very traumatized by high school.
I
Going back to
know.
high school and feeling like such a failure in math, right? And so every time I would have my best friend, she would come and tutor me. She was amazing in math. And she would get like hundreds and I would barely pass and I would get like a 60. And so every time I would tell myself, Shira, you stink at math. Like math is just not your thing. And I kept telling myself that story. And that story became true because I kept
Mm-hmm.
not just telling myself that, I found evidence that that story was true every
Mm-hmm.
single time through the different math tests that I would get back. It was just proving my story, and therefore it was true in me, and I believed it until I went to university and I majored in business and I started taking accounting and finance, and I was the top of the class. And my finance professor said to me, Shira, you are really good at math. And I was like, what? Like, what are you saying? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that was not my story, right? And it was
Right.
nothing that I ever believed. But I got out of that environment and I was able to retrain my brain to be able to go into business and start business to think, okay, Shira, you got this. You can do this. You're not so bad at math. So it's amazing the stories that we tell ourselves that really become your belief system and that you really continue finding evidence for. So the opposite side that one of the reasons that I reached out to you is because what I find as an entrepreneur, the hardest thing to do is to look at your bank account and then tell yourself that's not your story, right? In
Mm-hmm.
order for you to be like, okay, the cash flow is tough right now, right? But I know that this is not the essence of what this business is and what I am. And there is so much coming right now. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe you could talk because I think, to be honest with you, this is probably one of the biggest challenges with entrepreneurs is to say what you're looking at now and what you see now is not forever and is not maybe not even true, right? So how do you work with that?
Yes, so it's definitely complex, and I'm going to try to like simplify it. Of course, it's not, doesn't happen immediately. Um, but something that really helps me and my clients is remembering, and I'm gonna get a little bit esoteric for a second. I hope that's okay. I'll try and keep it practical. Um, but your present has nothing to do with the future you're creating because the present is an echo of the past. So when like your
Mm,
past actions or past experiences are what created the present. So when you use whatever is in the present to define what is going to happen in the future, it's
mm,
actually kind of backwards. You're using the past and then you are creating more of it. But if you change your mindset and identity in the present, so the same way that like the present is created by, the actions and mindset of the past, the future is created by the actions and mindset of um, the present. So, what you want to do is go into the identity of the person, the version of you who has the future you desire, who has the money, the abundance, the success, and embody that identity now, even when you don't have the evidence. And I understand a huge part of that challenge or a huge part of what is challenging about that is being able to do that when you don't see that. You don't see the evidence of, you know, the abundance now. But I think the reason I brought up the esoteric thing is because I think it helps to like frame it that way. Like it makes sense that you don't have the evidence yet because you are creating it right now. So you
Yes.
don't want to bring in that past version of you. On a practical level, to I understand that that's like abstract and it's like, okay, that sounds nice, but how do I actually do it? And so on a practical level, what I do with clients is helping them like work with some of these fears and feelings like somatically. So because a lot of the time it's this anxiety that we feel
Mhm.
in the body. So like working with these parts of you that feel scared, that's similar to some of what we did in your session, is learning to actually like communicate with this part of you that feels scared, that feels anxious, and we're not trying to like push away these feelings, but we're learning to expand our capacity to like hold that feeling and still stay aligned with the higher vision and the higher level decision making. That is what we need to ultimately get to that next level.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that you did with me that was so helpful, and I'll share with you how I continue doing it now,
Yeah.
was just a little bit of visualization. I mean, I'll just share another personal story that I shared with you. When I was pregnant with my first son, and this was over 27 years ago, so and I still remember it like it was yesterday. There was like no access to computers at that time, and my husband was doing his OBGYN rotation in medical school. And I went to the doctor and I was bleeding. I had just found out I was pregnant. I was maybe 12 weeks pregnant. And I'll never forget, it was in Haifa. And he sent me home and he said, go home and pray. Basically, my placenta had separated from my uterus. And the chance of miscarriage was really, really, really high. And I bring this up because I called my mother in law, who is a psychotherapist, and she said to me, I want you to envision and visualize your placenta reattaching to your uterus. Now, I had no idea what that even looked like because it wasn't like
Mhm.
nowadays where I can go on the internet. So I opened my husband's medical textbook and I started looking at, okay, what is a placenta? What is a uterus? And all I was on bed rest. Like that was literally the only thing I could do. And every single day I visualized my placenta reattaching to my uterus. And when I came back 3 weeks later, he said to me, the doctor said, well, this is a miracle. It reattached. For
Amazing.
me, that was like, oh my God, look at the mind body connection. So,
Yeah.
how do I apply that now is when I did my session with you, I came to you, I was very anxious and, stressed and, I wasn't the version that I wanted to be, right? So
Right.
I knew that. But the visualization that you did with me to visualize what it would feel like if you weren't this anxious, if you had what you wanted, right? And so that helped me so much. It also helped me talk to my anxiety, where I think one
Mhm.
of the best tips you gave me, and I hope it's okay if I'm sharing it,
Absolutely.
is that you also told me that the part of you that's anxious and that's worried is still a part of you, and it's a part of you that wants the same goal as the rest of you.
Mhm.
So give it another assignment rather than saying, okay, I understand that your job is to show me this is fear and that there's danger, but reassure it there's no danger. I'm not dying. Usually that fear comes out to protect you from a real, like the war, real life
Yeah.
situation. At that time, there was no war. And you could say, listen, I'm going to give you another assignment. I want you to now find evidence that things are good. And so a few things that really helped me that I can share with the rest of the entrepreneurs that are listening here in Israel is number one, in my shower, because I don't have a lot of time. We're very busy. So in my shower, when I take a shower every day, I do my visualization, but I don't just visualize. I get to the point where I actually feel that version of me that I want to feel. And I say to myself, what does it feel like? How does this Shira feel? She feels proud. She feels, successful, right? She
Mm-hmm.
feels at peace, right? And so I let myself feel that every single day. So I think that really, really helps me a lot on a daily basis, just practicing that, but also reassigning that anxiety to like find proof. And then the second thing that I do is I have a money journal. And this money journal, I write not every day, but I try to. I just saw somebody actually just post that it's much better to write with a blue pen on paper, but I don't do that. I just type.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
I just type because who has pen and paper nowadays, right?
really? I didn't know the blue thing.
Yeah, apparently there's something about the blue and the white go Israel that really gets your brain to like, it's
Okay.
interesting. So that's what I saw that. But I type every day, finding evidence that I do have abundance, right? Not that I'm looking for it and it's coming, but that it's here now.
Yes.
Where is my abundance now? And it really does change your mindset to start looking. And it's similar to like that, you always hear about this, like everything's in front of you, you just don't see it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for example, like if you're in the market for a red car, all of a sudden you're going to be noticing tons of red cars that are, in front of you that just parked, that are on the highway stalled with you, right? Whatever it is. Whereas these red cars have always been there, but you never noticed them before because you were never paying attention to them. So
Yes.
to get your brain to start paying attention to the positive rather than the negative is so loud. You could have an amazing life. Everything's going well, but that one thing is all you ruminate on constantly. And if you can now focus your brain on all the evidence that things are abundance already, then you will attract more abundance.
100%. And I think that's such an important point, and I want to make one other point related to it. Sometimes when we talk about this, some people will say like, "Oh, that's toxic positivity," but it's not about that at all. It's what you said. When you when you notice something, when you focus on something, you start noticing more of it. So from the perspective of an entrepreneur, this is actually very practical. It's not like spiritual. It's like if you're noticing abundance, you will literally be more tuned to new business opportunities that can bring you more money. Whereas if you're constantly focusing on lack and what you don't have and all these things, you will literally miss opportunities that are right in front of you that could be your next big thing.
And I think that's so huge, especially for Olim that are listening to this
Yeah,
podcast and Israelis that are coming. It's the power that you have that Hashem has given us, and it's all rooted in the Torah. Hashem has given us this power, right? And that's what I also love talking to you about that because we were able to also bring Hashem.
for
A lot of
sure.
people are like, oh, you're creating and you don't have that power. No, Hashem gave us this ability, and Hashem wants it's all written in the Torah, right? Even things like mitzvah gedola leyot b'simcha, like when you're happy and you're focusing on things, good things happen. And so I think it's just so important for Olim as well that are coming. And there's a lot of stress, and there's a lot of bureaucracy, and there's a lot of red tape, and there's a lot of frustration. And this is something I did when I made Aliyah with my young children when I did, was really focus on all the good. I could focus on all the crap that's happening, and there was plenty to focus on.
For
But if
sure.
you focus on, oh my God, look, everybody's celebrating Sukkot here. Like everyone's building a sukkah. It's unbelievable where I was the only sukkah in my street, where I lived. Like it's just these little things when you can just look at that, you find more. And the same thing with money. And I think this is so important for Olim that are looking for jobs, that are looking for new opportunities. If you're constantly looking at your rejections, and if you're constantly looking at, oh my God, I just can't make it here, right? You're not going to make it here, right? If you think you can,
Absolutely.
if you think you can't, you're right. And I think that's such an important, statement. But if you look at, okay, I got this interview. Wow, I'm making progress. Even these steps towards looking at the progress, your mindset shifts and new opportunities that are there, you will then see. And I feel like the same with owners of businesses, the same thing. It's very hard to take action or to think about a good idea or to be creative when you have this fear. And this fear, especially for entrepreneurs around money, can debilitate you, right? But if
Yeah.
you can really focus and every day write down, 10 good positive things around money, around business. For me, that's specific because I'm really focusing on the business right now. Obviously, this can work for anyone in other areas, love, anything that they want to bring. But for me, for these entrepreneurs and for Olim right now, to just really focus on the things that are positive and feel it. I think that's a big important thing too, is like
Yeah.
to feel the joy and to feel even through this war. I mean, it's unbelievable how you talk to Israelis and they're like, yeah, I just closed this deal. Like I'm working with my clients and it's like this war is not even happening because they're
Right.
so focused on all the good that's happening.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
unbelievable.
Yeah, and the emotional piece is so important because actually, how your subconscious mind creates new beliefs is through a combination of what you repeatedly tell yourself and what you have a strong emotional tie to. That's why certain things that, happened in childhood still can
Yeah.
be triggering. So it's like if you get into that emotional state and you consistently look for the things you want to create more of and tell yourself new empowering beliefs combined with that emotional state that rewires your neural path or creates new neural pathways that reinforce those new beliefs.
Can you talk for a minute, Hannah, just about those pathways? Like, we understand it because, I've been working on this and you coach this, but maybe for those out there, because again, this is where I believe the real technology is in your brain, is exactly these pathways. So maybe you can just share a little bit about how that works.
Yeah, basically, for sure. I'm gonna like way oversimplify it,
Yes.
and I'm not
Yes.
a neuroscientist, but basically, thinking is something that gets habituated. Like, the more you think something, the more your brain creates these like pathways. It's kind of like imagine like a road, like a dirt road that gets like super cleared. So it's like that becomes like your brain's most efficient pathway, and then these clusters of thoughts like work together. So if you often think a bunch of thoughts at once, like when you think one of them or you see something that reminds you, you think something that reminds you of the other thoughts, then all of the other thoughts come too. So for example, if like, you know, looking at your bank account puts you in a stressed mood or makes you think a bunch of negative thoughts, it's like anytime you look at your bank account, that entire cluster of negative thoughts is going to come. And maybe it also then makes you think of whatever, your mortgage and your business and all these other things. And so your brain like gets habituated to those pathways. But there's this concept called neuroplasticity, which is basically this idea that is proven. It's not just an idea, but you can change these pathways by basically practicing new thoughts and new ways of thinking. And the way that you can do that is basically to start with meditation, and it doesn't have to be with meditation, but basically
In the
being
shower.
yes, in the shower, whatever,
Yeah.
like just some of these practices, whether it's meditation, journaling, being in the shower, observing your thoughts and creating new ones. And the more you repeat new thoughts and practice thinking and believing in a different way, you create new neural pathways. So it's like your brain gets a new habit.
It's so amazing. Like you literally can change your life through changing your thoughts and your beliefs. It's unbelievable. Like I just think it's such a power. It's a power that we have that many people don't even realize that they're using it towards a negative power or a positive power. But Hannah, I love that you came to Israel. You are a lawyer, so I want to hear kind of how this happens. You started this new coaching business and you're helping so many leaders and entrepreneurs. So just share with me, how did this start?
Well, thank you for asking. Yes, I am a non-practicing lawyer, and actually, that is very much a part of like how I got into spirituality. Is because so the reason I became a lawyer is because for a big part of my life I was doing everything like by the book, and it was just so important for me to be approved of, to have status, to have other people think I was smart, like because that's what made me like feel okay. And during this time, I kind of knew there was like an inner voice that I heard that was like, this doesn't feel quite right. But I basically was like, shut up, inner voice. Like, I care about being approved of more. That's basically what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I went to law school and I just realized that I hated it, not because there's anything wrong with law school. I think lawyers are amazing. But it just wasn't for me. And I had this kind of awakening where I was like, I cannot do my life like this anymore. Like this, meaning living for other people's opinion of me, basically, because I'm going to be miserable. So that's when I started getting really into meditation at that point, just because I was feeling so horrible. And I was like, I don't know, I need to do
Mm-hmm.
something. I need to believe that things are going to be okay. And I had always been kind of spiritual, but I was looking for practices to help me get out of this horrible mindset. And that was sort of my gateway drug into learning about,
Gateway drug. I like that.
yes, healthy gateway drug, I think, into learning about spirituality. And like, I already loved personal development and stuff. So, anyways, that was a long time before I started my coaching business. But years after that, so basically, I started living my life for myself. I went through several careers, including the entertainment industry and recruiting in the tech industry. Um,
Wow.
but I started my own business a few years ago. And with this stuff, I actually didn't intend, when I started this business, I was working in marketing. I was helping people with online marketing. But I just really wanted to share some of this knowledge because it had helped me so much, and because I found myself even guiding some of my like business clients, like my marketing clients through
Yeah.
it, because they were often struggling, for example, to implement a marketing strategy because of how they were feeling. And so we were working on this stuff anyway, and I just started sharing some of these things online, and I wasn't even intending to make a coaching business out of it, but people started asking for coaching sessions, and I was like, you know what, why not? So, yeah, the rest is history.
Wow, that's unbelievable. So, Hannah, if people, entrepreneurs, everybody, Olim want to get in touch with you, what is the best way? And I will definitely post this as well, on LinkedIn and on Instagram, but maybe just share your website, your Instagram. How can people reach you?
Yeah, for sure. So I share the most on Instagram, and my Instagram handle is just Hannah Explains It. And I know not everyone uses Instagram, so people can also email me at hannah@hannahshtein.com if they're interested in chatting more or booking a session. And I'm also on LinkedIn as Hannah Shtein.
Okay, amazing, Hannah. Thank you so much for joining. So, to all of our listeners, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so we can bring you great Israeli innovation, technology, and solutions. Hannah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shira.